Well. Good. This is, I don't know how to call this, but this is the second year of doing this. We are starting a new one. And 2023 went well. We recorded a number of episodes, a number of sessions, and I hope you've been watching and been checking them out. And I'm seeing people are watching. And so, if you've not been checking them out, maybe you are interacting with us on this for the first time, you probably need to go look for the ones that have been recorded in the past because we've had some very good conversations. And even as the year starts, right now, everybody is very hopeful. Everybody is very hopeful. It's just early in the year. We're looking forward to a good year. Some people have plans. They want to go to school. Some people have plans. They want to start that business. They want to launch that idea. They want to launch that thing. You want to experience a better year because 2024 is here with us. And before you know it, it will be mid 2024. And before you know it, we'll be talking of 2025. And it will be unfortunate if at the end of all this, you still remain the same you. I think what is important is that as the years progress, there should be some change happening in your life, whether it's how you think, whether it's financially, whether it's socially, whether it's career-wise, whether it's whatever it is you find yourself engaging in, there should be some sort of growth, some growth curve, so that then in 5 years, you're at a different space. In 5 years, you're having different conversations, really. If I look back 5 years ago, and that was 2019, yeah, early 2019, that's 5 years ago, yes. It looks like it was just the other day, but it's been 5 years. And from where I was, and I remember a few places, a few things to early 2019, where I was and where I am now, I can see a great difference. I can see something has shifted. And for me, majorly, things have shifted mostly because of the people I've interacted with. And I've really interacted with amazing groups of people that have been value to me. And I believe I've also been value to them. I've also been really able to read a lot of books. I like reading. I like reading, and I always try to make sure that any given time I'm reading a book. Right now, I've just started reading a book by Alex Ferguson, and most of you know the name if you've watched football over the years. You know this name, and he's read. There's a book about leading, which is really how I think how he led as a football manager, how he really led during that season with all diverse kinds of young players and everything. And I'm enjoying this book because really it's speaking of real issues that I'm finding very helpful. And so such books, and I've read so many books, I can go on and tell you a number of books I've read about leadership, about life, about change, about self-awareness, about communication. I've also been able to read the scriptures, and right now I've started reading the scriptures again. I've gotten some material about reading the Bible in 1 year. So I've started that again, and I'm finding it very interesting. And this is chronologically. They're trying to do it chronologically. So in other words, what I'm saying is, over the years, I have committed myself to some things, which is intentional interacting with people and adding value to people's lives so that they can hopefully some of them also, and a lot of them have added value to my life, and also being able to interact with books. And I've read books, and I've also gone to places. I've visited, I've traveled, and that has made some change in my life, my perspective, the way I look at things, the way I interact with people, the conversations I find myself in have really been as a result of not only this, but some of this. There could be more. I could go on and tell you. And I'm just looking back 5 years ago. And so in 2029, which will be 5 years from now, my hope will be that I will be at a better place. Because if I continue reading books, if I continue interacting with people, if I continue experiencing different cultures and different kinds of people, hopefully I'll be at a different place. And then there's this series of small decisions that we make, series of small decisions that I've been making. And hopefully this 2024, I will make decisions that when I look back 5 years from now, I will be able to say my life has changed. My life, my family, my work, everything around me has changed and I can be able to experience a different reality. So I don't know about you. You're coming into this 2024 and maybe you're also hoping for change. Maybe you're also hoping that things will get better. Maybe you're also at a point where you're wishing that you could do a few things differently. Maybe you lead an organization. Maybe you are part of a team. Maybe you are part of your friends you hang out with. Maybe there's this business idea you want to launch, whatever that is. And you're looking at 2024 and you're thinking, maybe this is the year to start it. I invite you to go ahead and get it started. I invite you to give it a shot. But as we look at this, there's a tool, and I'm reminded of this tool because we really talked about it in the previous episodes, which is to know yourself so that you can lead yourself. Now, in most cases, we find ourselves in situations and we respond in a particular way. We interact with things in a particular way, and sometimes we get shocked at how we responded. We get shocked at how things happened, and we're like, oh my God, I did not expect myself to respond that way. I did not expect to do that. But things happen. But how well do you know yourself? How well do you say, this is me? I know myself very well. Now, you might not be perfect at knowing yourself, but how well do you know yourself? On a scale of 1 to 10, if someone asks you, tell me about yourself, how well do you know yourself? How can you really describe yourself? And it's important to know yourself. And I'm hoping that even as we roll out these conversations going forward, that we'll be talking about that knowing, that self-awareness. Because one of the things, the rallying calls that I have a lot that I talk about is know yourself to lead yourself. If you're able to know yourself, your weaknesses, your strengths, your challenges, your points of frustrations, your triggers, then you can know how well to lead yourself so that you can pursue that desire, you can pursue that goal. There's a statement I had the other day that it has stuck with me, that the things we believe in, the things we desire, are not always in line with our actions. So there's what you believe in, and there's what you desire. But unfortunately, in most cases, you find that our actions is not always in line with these things. And so it's important to ask yourself, okay, so what is the gap between what I believe in and what I desire and my actions? Is the gap too wide or is the gap too slim? And I think when you come to a point of self-awareness, you can then realize, there's a wide gap here. So what's happening? Am I believing in things that are not realistic to what exactly do I believe in? And why is there a huge gap? Or my desires? Why is there a very huge gap compared to my actions at the moment? And so that self-awareness is very important because then you can realize maybe I need to adjust my actions closer to what I believe in, or I need to review my beliefs, or I need to adjust my actions to be in line with the things I'm desiring, or I need to shift my desires. And it's that all from that brutal, tough process of self-awareness. And so, as we go on with this conversation, we'll talk about self-awareness and we'll engage in it. We'll interact with it in a way that hopefully will help you start opening yourself to who exactly am I? And how do I respond? What triggers me? What makes me snap? What are the things that I prefer? What are the things that I least prefer? What are the things that naturally come to me? What are my learned behaviors? What are the things that I can do in my sleep? How do I respond when someone wakes me up at night and tells me, hey, tell me about this? What are the things that I'm very passionate about that I can speak on and on and on and on? You could be passionate about art, about children, about leadership, about community, about government staff, about politics. What are these things that really sparks you? And one of the interesting things that probably I've mentioned this is we have this that how we are and how we are wired and maybe you are wired in a particular way, your DNA type, maybe, and that is just that who you are. But then there's a narrative that you've told yourself. And so you've told yourself a particular narrative. And this narrative has kind of influenced how you show up. And so maybe you come from a background, maybe you have a particular wiring, but then you come from a background where every morning you have a tradition, there's something you do. And so that becomes your narrative. And so that becomes how you approach life. And so that influences how you face life. I remember once someone telling me about a lady who would wash the baby in a particular way. And they would wash this baby in a particular way because of the narrative they find themselves in. And so there's a particular narrative. There's a famous story, maybe you've heard of it, of a lady who would buy meat, and they'd buy meat and would chop off a piece of meat. Yeah, the husband would bring meat. The husband would bring meat, and then they would chop off a piece of meat and put aside and cook whatever. And so the husband was curious, why do you keep chopping off a piece of meat every now and then when I bring? The lady was like, yeah, that's what my mom used to do. I'm like, okay, let's go ask your mom. So I went to ask the mother. The mother, hey, why did you used to cut a piece of meat whenever? Oh, that's what my mother used to do. And so they went to the grandmother of this lady, and the grandmother said, the reason why I used to cut it is in those days there was one standard way of measuring meat. And so I would cut it and put it aside so that whatever piece is left can fit in. Now, many a times we pick on different narratives without necessarily interrogating these narratives, but then they form how we approach life. But it's important to interrogate these narratives we find ourselves in. You could be born in a community where people respond to things in a particular way, and that forms your narrative. You could be born in a particular religious perspective. Maybe you're Muslim, you're Christian. You didn't pick that. You were born in that family, and that forms your narrative. Maybe you were born in a family where people love eating fish, and that forms your narrative. You're born in a community where people love business, and so you grow up thinking you have to do business because that has formed your narrative. But really, the type you struggle with some principles or appreciating some principles of business. But since you're born in a space where people always do business and you have this particular narrative, you want to drive this narrative. So I don't know what narrative it is that you could be finding yourself in. And so as you launch into this new year and move on, it's good to interrogate and ask yourself, how well do I know myself? What's my type? And what's my DNA? How, if I remove my narrative, can I do that? And then so what's my DNA? And then what are the narratives that I find myself in that influences how I respond to different situations? Now, I have one question that I'd like to ask you before you go to the next episode of this, is to ask yourself, who has had the most powerful voice in your life? Who is this person who has really influenced you? Now, this lady we talked about who used to cut meat, the mother had an influence on how she cooked. And all of us, you could sit around and say, someone has had a major influence over my life. Someone has been a powerful influencer over me. And who is that person? And what made them this powerful voice? Who is that person? And what made them this powerful voice? Just ask yourself that question, and let's meet on the next episode. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much.